Greetings and the best of salutations. There would be prayer, power, peace, patience, uh, prosperity. Um, yes, as I try to further evolve into a better being, a human, I establish what data I can gather in my data bank, meaning that which I observe, that which I um, research, study, that which when I analyze as well, as I try to do my best to mate with this this creation, this life, serving as a adding to the benefits of it, going beyond classification. Yes, um, some would call that taxonomy. Yes, and the in doing so, going beyond race, class, gender, religion, economics, politics, religion, and education. If I didn't say use any of those terms before, um, in dealing with what people call the influence of the culture, the influence of the culture. And I'm gonna take some information, read something. Someone talks about culture. For me, culture is the totality of a people, thought, and practice. Buddha says all that we possess, or attribute to him, is a result of thought. Ancient Kemet Dejihuti, the way of words, and every thought begins with a seed. And I realize that vision stems from the source of one's thinking. It's um it's kind of challenging due to the fact that when you deal with culture, it is associated with agriculture, and anytime you deal with agriculture, you're dealing with something as it pertains to the elements, if I may, use the elements, or the something that comes from the sky, water, and it hits the ground, and it produces a crop. Agriculture. And when you deal with agriculture, you're also dealing with that which is designed to be productive, because the mind at its best is to be productive. I realize that culture helps you find your bearings. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. Some would argue that case. That's fine. So, but culture uh, is designed maybe to help manage and to restore one's one's credibility, or one's human potential, or to one's originality. Culture. Someone says that is another term now, commercialism, and he said that he picked that from the Heritage Dictionary, because our culture and our leadership over our life in this part of the world has been designed to save us. So it's culture is designed to save us, and if that's the case, and deal with commercialism, we see that there is a lot of commercials or advertising that is being displayed, and the manner and the way in which it is being displayed, and what is the intention behind it. Is it designed to deculturalize us, or uh, um, yes, deculturalize us, or deliberate us? um, when you are in a court case, however it is to be applied, you go through a deliberation, and so we can see and the impact and the effects of culture in our leadership. Yes, someone that says that no one can save anyone. You just have to learn how to save yourself. But you can save someone from fire, you know, and want to give credibility to those who have the title of a firefighter. They're first responders to a crisis. Yes. So the culture in our leadership over our lives, this part of the world is designed to save us once we lose our culture. Commercialism, he's saying. Let's look at that though. When we see in the society, when we deal with commercialism, is also associated with commerce. In America, it says Article 1, Section 8 said that Congress has the right to control taxes and commerce. It's leadership in the culture. Okay, to save us and put us on our feet again. Well, if the foundation of the feet is made of clay, then you know that there's going to be possibly a collapse. Again, we can find our way in a decent and healthy culture again. So, how do we come to a point where it's that commercialism or commerce, culture, and leadership that could put us on our feet again and find our way into a decent, healthy culture again? There must be managers. Managing our order for our culture has that responsibility. So there is a managing that must take place. And when you manage something, in the language and the word itself, as man and aged, it means one has become of age. One has matured. When one has matured, he or she has become responsible. So that we will, so they will only let us go so far. So that we don't own, so that we, culture again, and the managers of culture, when it comes to commerce or commercialism in the leadership, it should be designed not to let us go but so far. So in itself, it is not designed to go but so far. Anything. And when you exceed your limits, you will be exposed. So you have to deal with attitude. Um, Someone said the problem is not the problem, but the attitude that you have about the problem. The attitude that people have when it comes to culture, commercialism, or commerce, culture, and leadership, and and the attitude and the emphasis that it has on profit or success. That means something physical, something material you can feel with your own hands, and that which we have at our, that which one has at his or her disposal. Um, he or she can use that in mold and shaping other people, and even bribe and persuade them to think and act a certain way when it comes to the influence of culture, commerce, commercialism, um, culture, and leadership. Yes. So is it done to chiefly uh, exploit people for gain, to sacrifice the quality for profit? Yes. Culture. Culture, commercialism, commerce, and leadership. One thing we must know that structure is designed to structure our lives. Yes, knowledge is designed to structure our lives. In doing so, what must be established is the human person, and that deals with human relations, the way we relate to one another. And the manner and way in which we relate to one another is it based on one's material success, one's prestige, one's power, classification once again. Classification. I'm gonna get to something in a minute. So, because I realize that what will increase one's wrongdoings when it comes to crime, corruption, chaos, confusion. The biggest crime you can commit is fraud. You pretend to be something that you're not. You make false promises that you're unable to go with. False promises you're unable to come through on. And it creates fatalities, that's fatalism. Worse, pessimistic environment of misgivings, doubt, suspicion. It's like someone is calling you onto something, but you're so distant that you're unable to hear. And when one is able to hear and not downplaying anyone associated with being dumb, deaf, and blind, your heart is far away. And someone is calling you and you just don't hear, which means there seems to be a sense of a poverty in the a poverty of the spirit, affected by the worst spiritual disease ever. When it comes to the inappropriate or misappropriate use, when it comes to our faculties, our limbs, our senses, and under the influence of commercialism, commerce, culture, and leadership. It seemed to be the case in the political arena, could be the case in the academic field or arena, religious, or just a regular individual who's under the influence or who has been intoxicated with the misappropriate use of commercialism, culture, commercialism, commerce, uh, culture, and leadership. I probably said that culture twice. But it's the misappropriate use of anything. Our tongue, uh, our, our limbs, our thinking. It seems as though that the commercialism and advertising is pushing people further and further away. They are desensitizing them. They're becoming more done. They cannot hear. But they cannot hear, then therefore they're unable to see. And it seems as though that they're unable to register what's going on, really. And maybe they are able to register what's going on, but there's not too much possibly they designed to do. So I just want to deal with this impoverished of the spirit, man. And I mean one's energy. And one has become, some people have become, it's like become so maybe content with it, as if it becomes second nature, that this is the way of life. Yes, there was a story about someone was riding on the donkey. Someone would say that represents the dissatisfied and the yeah, I think the dissatisfied, that's another word I can't think of it. And if you have read some books, if you have seen some things in life and experienced some things that are not all that pleasant, it could numb you, it could traumatize you, and you could become content with it. And it puts you in a position to be unable to distinguish that which is a sickness and that which is healthy. And if you continue to become discontent with it and being unable to distinguish what the sickness and what is healthy, then you will continue to accept the sickness. And when you continue to accept a sickness, you continue to move further and further and further away until the voice that you were hearing so clearly, you don't hear it anymore. And therefore you become on automatic pilot. How can any individual who have any problem, marital problems, how can he or she involve children in that? He or she is so blind, have been so desensitized, that they will involve children. They will jeopardize their lives. So who do you fault in this? Is it the individual the sum total of the whole? But we're dealing with culture now, huh? There's commercialism, commerce, and leadership. Fraudulent behavior. poverty of the spirit, possession. So we see now the extent of the sickness of the culture that put emphasis on the misappropriate use of their faculties, of their limbs, commercialism, commerce, and leadership. That there has been a mismanagement of it. Because if they have mismanaged it, then therefore they themselves are not appropriately in the position of leadership. Yes. So we're dealing with that spiritual disease. That's what we're dealing with. A spiritual disease. Anything that remains in its natural form and natural state is spiritual. There is a African principle is that social conflict can produce illness and misfortune. Social conflict is when you are left to your own devices without any guidance. Have we been trained to develop the technique to classify and label each other, to demean, to degrade, to devalue and disrespect each other? Has that become a technique of the culture? That even when something comes to alert you, to give you warning and aware you, that you become so stubborn due to your dissatisfaction that we all start to see ourselves as an enemy to each other. That the words that we say to one another seems to be foreign, without no meaning. This called being devitalized, and because no one is really listening, not trying to understand, maybe only wanting to be understood. There's a play on words there, because we're living in a word impressive environment. Because when there is balance, understanding speaks clearly. So even in a distribution process of money, if there is no balance, and once you throw off the ecology of any environment, one's intellectual aptitude for learning becomes difficult. So it's become difficult to even analyze, to think, to even find resolve in a sense of peace in this and self as well, and making amends with self as well as this creation. That's something to think about. So I say, when it comes to culture, in its role is to help us find our bearings and to manage and to restore any credibility that has been lost one with another, because integrity is your word. Commercialism, and leadership should help play a part in putting us back on that road, on that self-assurance of confidence when it comes to our human relations, the way we relate one with another, and then the relationships is the connection itself. Because where there is no connection, there is no growth. And stop getting to the point whereas any criminal activity in a criminal genetic society, that it is being glamorized by media, press, and television, and don't understand the origin of that. And Greek tragedy is to the plot and the scheme is to help us really reflect and deal and really and see what's going on in the society, and not just for merely entertaining purposes. Because if you think it's just for entertaining purposes, then you are perpetuating and promoting and abating or being a part of an accessory to the crime of a master magician who's a conjecturer, who's behind the scenes calling the shots. Because he or she who imitates a people become worse than them. So we have to be clear when it comes to the role of culture. I say it is necessary but not sufficient. The sufficient is in the amount of time that one has on his plain existence to manage his or her life and to be responsible with the use of his limbs and the use of his faculties in the best of way for the betterment of humanity. Challenging indeed. Until next time, talk to you.